My beard, it's gone. So I know a lot of you guys are gonna wonder what happened to your beard. Like in the last video, you had a beard and now, well, let me tell you a little story. Really trying to get up early lately, and it was an experiment I started way back, when I was a full-time photographer, about working early in the morning. I'd be done a shoot, it could be a wedding or a fashion shoot or whatever. You're tired, you're exhausted, and the next day you've got all these photos to get through. I don't know how it came about, but I started working at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I found that I could get more work done between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. than I could between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Like, when I've got mental work to do, first thing in the morning, I don't know what it is. It just works. It works well for me. Now that doesn't translate to physical work. I can't start grinding until about 6:30 or 7. Like the old connection between the brain and the fingers, they're just not quite there early in the morning. And also I need a couple cups of coffee to really get things going. Yesterday, I was doing some paperwork in the morning. It was great. Early start. I think I started work at 5. And about 6:30, I came out here and was getting things organized. And I thought, you know what? My beard's driving me nuts. I need to trim it a little bit. So I grabbed my little razor. I actually do trim my beard in the garage just because I don't want that hair in the house. It's easy to vacuum up. I grabbed my trusty trimmer, the number 8 trimmer clipper thingy. Great, we lost a ½ inch off the beard. It's good, but we need to manage the sides here. We need to kind of blend the sides together. Number 4, put it onto the razor, start trimming. That felt weird. Sometimes I don't even use a mirror, but I grabbed the mirror and then I looked at it, and I didn't actually put the number 4 clipper on. I just used this. And I ended up trimming a big old patch right in the side of my beard, and I was like, are you kidding me? Oh my word. Went in the house and the family was just getting up, and of course they had a great laugh. Hey, look at Dad's got a chunk out of his beard. And I had no other choice but to trim it. I actually trimmed everything to a number 2. I know every time I get rid of my beard, I get a lot of comments, so I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna start this video with an explanation. It's either that or I have to wait for a couple more months till my beard comes back to start making videos. So that's why I have no beard. Now on to the topic of today's video. I get a lot of questions on Instagram, tons of DMs on Instagram as to what I use for my YouTube. A lot of you guys saying, hey, I wanna start a YouTube channel. Awesome. You're saying, hey, would you recommend cameras? So it's different for everybody. It depends on your budget, it depends on what you're filming, and your experience as well. But I'm just gonna kind of show you my kit that I use. It's changed a bit in the last year, and I'll kind of talk about those changes. And I'm just gonna try to explain more the thought process behind why I'm using what I'm using. So I thought, you know what, the best place to start is like my number 1 favorite camera. If I were to make a strong recommendation to somebody who says, hey, listen, I've got a little bit of money, well, I don't, $1,000 Canadian to put into gear, what should I get? Well, the one camera, and this in my opinion is one of the greatest cameras for a maker channel, and that is the G7X Mark II. Now typically this is kind of heroed as a vlogging camera because it's got the flip up screen and it works great for that. It's got a nice wide lens at its widest, so you can keep a decent arm length away, and it works. The thing I really like about this camera is it has manual control. So if I want to zoom in and get a shot, say if you're doing a scene at a drill press or something, you want to get nice and tight, you zoom this thing in, you can click on the screen where you want the focus to be, and then you can just press it to manual focus, so it's not searching, and it just holds focus there. That last video, the kitchen knife video I did, I filmed that entire thing on this camera, and you actually get a fairly cinematic look for something that's this small. A couple other key features I really like about it is the audio is fairly decent. There's no audio input, which is a real bummer. I would love that. Like right now I'm filming on my 70D and I'm using a Lav Mic, so sorry I bumped it. The audio is much better when you're using a Lav Mic, but it's still pretty good in here. Every time I'm using this camera, I mean, it's as long as you're not too far away from it, it's really actually quite impressive audio. And that's one thing a lot of people don't think about. Everybody just tends to worry about the picture, the image quality, but the audio is very, very important as well. You know, you can have a less quality video video, but great audio, and it's enjoyable, right? It's pleasing. If there's one sense that I feel, for me at least, is more intense, it's my sound. If I have a great video quality, just incredibly tack sharp images, but the audio is terrible, it's a lot more uncomfortable to watch that. So I think audio is something you do want to consider absolutely when you're doing videos, unless you're just doing like fast forward type builds. But if you're going to be talking to the camera, try to get the best audio you possibly can. And if you're not too far away, this one camera does a really good job. I could run my entire YouTube channel with just this. Love this camera. One other feature I really like about it is it does time lapse, which is nice. You can get little filler content or other things to help build the story. And the thing about this too is the form factor. I mean, this is tiny, right? It's not a large commitment to take this with you. If you want to go places and film other stuff or interview people, batteries are small. You throw a couple of these in your pocket plus one in the camera, and you've set for like a whole day of filming. I apologize for that. But I really like this camera for that. And one other nice feature is that it does charge with USB. So you can be driving in your car, you plug in your cigarette lighter, you're charging up your camera. Really the great camera. My favorite camera. In fact, a couple months ago, this camera in particular stopped working, and I sent it back to Canon, and the screen was all busted. I dropped this off of a drill press. I had so much dust inside the lens, and they fixed it. They put a new screen on for me, did it all up, and it's as good as new now. But while I was waiting for that one, I actually bought a second one for myself just because I hated living without this camera. Now, this is kind of like my backup. I keep it in a Ziploc bag so it doesn't get dusty. And then this has also become my good one. This one was always gonna have a nice clear picture because I'm not gonna be using this in the shop. I don't have to worry about dust getting into the lens. And I did have a lot of dust in there before I sent it to Canon to get it fixed up. But I absolutely love this. I'm gonna show you a real quick sample footage of what this camera can do and the great image quality, the nice shallow depth of field where you can just focus the viewer's attention on one part of a frame. All right, so I'll just give you a quick sample of what the footage looks like off of this. So, say we're gonna take a shot of us drilling right here. Whoa, not that, that. So let me just use this 1, 2, 3 block as a target, boom. Now, say whatever workpiece was gonna be right there. What I can do is bring this little guy, this cute little camera, and I've got, you know what, we've got some nice backlight there. All I'm gonna do is zoom in all the way, and then I am going to, on the screen, you see right now we're focused on that chuck key. Well, I don't want that to be my focal point, so I'm just gonna touch the screen on the 1, 2, 3 block, boom, it's in focus. Now I can go over here and just turn the autofocus off, so it's manually focused. And you can flip this here just to make sure everything is copacetic. Doesn't matter what goes on in the background or the foreground. This is the only thing that's in focus. Unlike me, because I have the autofocus off. Try that again. That's in focus. That one worked. So that is that camera. Love it, love it, love it. And people say, hey, listen, I want to buy a decent camera. Should I get a DSLR? I would honestly say, my recommendation, no. I would get this instead of a DSLR. Another thing with this is it's got 60 frames a second, which is nice. You can run it at half speed, get a little bit of that slow motion, bring some of that cinematic effect into stuff, and still have really nice, smooth images when you're doing that. So my 70D here, it's a great camera, but I need multiple lenses for it, and it only shoots 30 frames a second. And I know it's an outdated camera, but I thought about the fact whether I upgrade to an 80D or something with a 60, at least 60 frames a second, or stick with this, and honestly, this is doing a good job. Now, where I started my YouTube channel, and maybe if you don't have quite the budget, for $1,000 you could get this in a tripod, boom, you're making videos, right? If you don't quite have that kind of a budget, where I started was with this. This is just I call it the crappy cam. It's a Canon Vixia. There's so many different models. This one in particular is an HFR 700. Yeah, HFR 700, and they're great. One thing I like about these is it's got the audio input, so I can run my Lav Mic into here. Now, you don't have quite as a great image quality, and it's noticeable. It's not amazing. However, some of my really popular videos, the one with the rocket stove, that whole thing was filmed with this, and that's got, I don't know, 2 million views. I'm not sure how many, but it's a popular video. And I think the big key thing to think about this, and this is something that I struggled with for a while, and it's also going to kind of explain why I've made some of the big changes to my gear, is it's not so much your equipment, but more what you're telling with your equipment. One of the advantages of a single camera like this or a single camera like this is that it doesn't get in the way of your storytelling. It doesn't get in the way of making the video. It's simple. You turn it on and you press record. Now this one you can get into some manual settings so you can really control the shot. This one not so much, but ultimately if you're building a cool project and you're just you shoot the video and run it fast forward, that's what people want to see. They just want to see all the steps. Well, there's hardly any easier way to get all those steps than just plink this on a tripod. You can zoom in nice and tight. This has 32 times optical zoom, so you can really focus in on one part of the process. And I think these are a great option. I've got a whole bunch of batteries for this, and this camera here is about $200. So 200 bucks, get yourself a $100 tripod. 300 bucks, you've got a dedicated YouTube camera thing. Again, with limitations, but honestly, those limitations won't keep your channel from growing if you're sharing the right content, and I truly do believe that. One other camera that's really popular with makers is the GoPro. I have two of them, and I've got very mixed emotions. The first GoPro I bought, well, I've had lots of other GoPros, but you know, since I started this channel, the first GoPro I bought was the Session 4, and I really like this camera, but the problem is I got a bunch of welding splatter on the screen. Not sure if it shows up there, but this screen is pretty beat up, and actually to the point where it affects my video quality, so I don't use this one so much. Actually, I use this, I got a little piece of Velcro in here, and then a piece of Velcro in my blast cabinet, and I actually stick this one in my sandblaster sometimes so I can get some footage of like sandblasting knives and stuff. But I replaced that with the Hero Session 5, and I'm not a fan of this camera, not at all. The thing I really don't like about these cameras is the file sizes are significantly larger, and I'm talking with the exact same camera settings, right? I shoot 1080, I'm not shooting 4K, 1080, 60 frames a second, image stabilization turned off, because the way these GoPros work is they actually just shoot a bigger picture. They kind of use their algorithms to determine what's shaking, and then they crop that image, that video file, so that it looks like it's stabilized. It's digitally stabilized, it's not stabilized, and it does work. It's better if you're doing some action shot. It is slightly noticeable, but you have really big files when you're using the stabilization. And then just in general, I can shoot the exact same settings on both cameras. These files are like twice the size and 4 times slower in editing. I edit with Final Cut Pro, and so literally, you know, if you're high-speed scrubbing or you cut a clip, fast forward this part, slow motion this part, and do this, I mean, you do this stuff with this camera, the Session 4, with this camera, with my 70D, it's almost instant, right? You do it and boom, done. With this thing, it's like a 5-minute wait. It's like rendering, and I don't know what it is about the files that come off of these new GoPros, but they tick me off like you wouldn't believe. The other thing I think is really stupid is that they have, when you record one video file, so I start, stop, when I go to bring this SD card into my computer, there's actually 4 files, I believe it's 4 or 3, I think it's 4, that support that one video file. And from everything I can understand, it has to do with the app support. So if you want to watch it on your phone, it records different types of files so it's quicker to communicate to your phone. That's stupid. I don't want to edit videos on my phone. I just want to stick this somewhere, press record, do what I'm doing, press stop, and then take that and put it in. But no, now I've got to select every 4th one and say, okay, I only want the MP4 files. I don't want all this other stuff. So you don't have the option to turn that off. And so I think it's so dumb. I always have this ominous feeling about GoPro. I could be totally off whack here, but I always feel like they're just kind of going away. I know they're coming up with new stuff, you know, the new one, the 7 they have, they say, oh, it's a vlogging camera. No, it's not a vlogging camera. You look what DJI is doing with their new Mini, and that's actually stabilized video footage. I think GoPro, they need to stick to doing a better job. You know what? The 5 should be a better version of the 4, not a clunkier one to use. Just my thoughts. Having said that, the GoPros are useful. They do have a place, and I've done some videos. I think my Persian Fighter, again, it's a fairly popular video. It's 1 million views or something. That whole thing was recorded on this. And then there's also just the form factor, the ease of use. I mean, literally, you buy one of the little GoPro clamps. They're sometimes cheaper than tripods. You can put these things anywhere, get shots that you couldn't get with even a camera like this. So they're definitely handy, and I do use them. They have a place. But these to me are not nearly as valuable as this or even this. So those are literally my cameras. I've got my 70D. The lens that I'm shooting with right now is it's a 24 millimeter fixed focal length. The other lens I have for it is a wider. It is a 10 to 18. And this one's actually designed for video. So it's got a silent motor in it and image stabilization. Does a really good job at video, really wide. Not crazy about the color on this lens or this one. But I really do enjoy the color that comes off of this camera. So those are my basic cameras. And again, you know, I could upgrade to much better DSLRs, but I always think, you know what? Why would I spend more money on a body? One thing is that I had a lot of lenses. I had the 70-200 f2.8 IS, the Mark II version. I had a 50mm f1.2, but those lenses in a dusty setting aren't fun. They're nerve-wracking. I'm always worried about wrecking my lenses. And then there was the other part where, like, literally when I used to shoot, I had 4 lenses with my DSLR, and between different processes, I was always swapping out lenses. Well, that just complicates the process, and it got to the point where it made me not want to do it anymore. I'd be making a knife, I'm like, oh, I should film this, and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered. You know, something like this is a much quicker option. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this thing right now. I should make a video about it, but whatever, I'll just put this on a tripod and record myself. That is the advantage with a super simple kit like this, and even like the GoPro. So a lot of people think, oh, I need a big DSLR. Well, you want it for the audio. It's nice, I can run my audio right into here, but honestly, it's more difficult. And typically I'll only use this one now for face-to-face shots where I don't want to sync up audio in post-production. Sometimes when I am shooting with this camera and I want better audio than this will offer, if I'm farther away from the camera, I will run my Lav Mic into this. This is a Zoom H4n handy recorder. I've got the, this is the Redhead brand Dead Cat, and this by itself does a great job of picking up audio. It will get a lot of audio. It's not great for a microphone because it picks up so much other noise. In here, there's a lot of echo. Having said that, I use this with the Dead Cat and a pop filter in front of it, and I actually use this a lot of times for recording viewers' knives because the sound, the audio quality is amazing with this. And I got this thing used for like 60, 70 bucks. I bought one like, I don't know, 5-7 years ago when they just came out, and really like the Zoom products. These are also really handy too for environmental noises, or say if you're on a hike or you're camping, you want to do like a video about camping or something, and you want the sound of a crackling fire or a waterfall. Just phenomenal quality audio that you can pick up with these. So these are actually a really handy tool, and I actually just run my Lav Mic when I'm doing stuff like this with this camera. I run my Lav Mic, plug it into here, and I can record all my audio, and then I just link it up in post-production, and it gives you the good quality audio. One other way I can get decent audio with my DSLR is, of course, the famous shotgun mic, and these are fairly affordable. This is one of the cheaper ones that Rode makes. It's got the big Dead Cat on here. I don't even know. So this is a Rode video mic. I don't know, maybe it's just the Rode video mic. But they make different versions of this, different quality levels. I'm not crazy about the audio on this one, and this one is long too, right? I had to do some modifications to this bracket to get it up high enough, because when I was shooting with a really wide lens, this would kind of be fluffing into the picture. A lot of people are like, hey, there's your beard. What's my beard? It's just this. This is also a great thing if you're not too far away from the camera, and really, really simple. I mean, you can't get much easier than just a shotgun mic mounted on a DSLR. That's a nice way to go when you're doing talking stuff and things like that. So that's pretty much it for my, oh, one other camera I actually use. This is my wife's old iPhone. I believe this is a 6, don't know for sure, but I use this one a lot for time lapse. I put it into a little clamp, I can sit this anywhere, and also slow motion is nice with the iPad too. Does a pretty good job, and then I can just airdrop this to myself, take the footage off of this that way, and I don't have to worry about a phone call ruining my video. That's one thing. I used to use my main iPhone, but then somebody calls me and then it stops the video recording, and that sucks. As far as peripheral equipment goes, tripods fairly important. I've got 2 Manfrotto tripods. When you buy decent quality ones, they're gonna last a long time. This is my original Manfrotto, and I bet I've had this tripod. I think my wife actually bought this one. We've probably had this one for about 15 years, I think. 13, 15 years, and it works just as good now as it did then. It's heavy, which is actually kind of nice if you're not hiking or something like that. You know, you got a better weight to support your camera. Really like them, but there's a lot of good brands. And even the cheap ones, they make decent cheap ones now too. Obviously, it's nice to have a tripod when you're doing filming. You can set your camera. One other thing, this is a kit that I probably last year I got one of these. This is called a Magic Arm. And it's funny because I bought one, and then Alex Steele actually sent me a message on Instagram. He's like, hey, do you have one of these? You should get one, because he started using them. And it's cool. So it's got this big clamp right here, really heavy duty. And then it's got a swivel ball at the bottom right here. a swivel bolt at the top where you put your camera on, and then this arm articulates, and it all tightens up. All three of these connection points tighten up with a single knob right here. So now that's locked in place. And what this allows you to do is, if I don't have a place where I can get a tripod into, or like a good location, I mean, you can clamp this to anything. I can stick it on the side of a table. I use this for overhead shots sometimes. You know, you can stick this on a quad. I've used this on my bicycle. There's just a lot of options when you've just got a super duper, very strong clamp. And this is absolutely rigid. Like, I mean, I can crank on it, but even big DSLRs, I've used my big 70-200 lens with a DSLR. It's a lot of weight. It's a good couple pounds. No problem whatsoever with these. So this is another piece of kit. You can buy cheaper versions as well, but if you've got like a maker channel, these are very handy because they allow you just to get in on the action a little bit more. You know, say if you're cutting wood, you can even clamp this to a 2x4 and get some cool shots that way, right? Just like the GoPro clamps, they work very similar, but this will hold much larger cameras, really handy. And then the last little tripod that I actually use quite a bit is this little Manfrotto GorillaPod. Everybody knows what these are. And this is the clamp. This is a shoulder pod that I use for holding iPhones. I actually saw this as a recommendation from Wrangler Star. He was using this and it's actually pretty good. It's nice for doing time lapse. You know, I can just stick this in here and it does a good job. And even, you know what, even as simple as you want to make YouTube videos and all you have is an iPhone, this little setup right here, really, what's wrong with this? You could set this on a table, film yourself, film what you're working on this, wrap it around stuff, you know, so that's another thing too. Now, I do believe it's totally doable to make decent YouTube videos with just your phone. I just don't like to. I like to have my phone separate. A lot of times when I'm making a video, I need to do some research or look up something or order parts or take a phone call. So it's nice not to have to rely on your iPhone. But then again, you know, a lot of people are saying, hey, what camera should I get? And it's like, well, what videos have you made? The very, very first video I did on this channel was shot on my iPhone, and it was a review of a gun, and I went out into a field with my boys and I said, okay, I'm gonna talk, and that was when I called the channel Homesteading Alberta, I think. And so I was like, hey, and it was really windy and it's terrible audio quality. It's a review on a little 410 pump shotgun that my son had bought, and I thought it was cool. Hopefully this helps you out a little bit, and more than anything, if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, do it. Share your information, share your passions, share what it is that you want to share. People will watch it. You'll get better at filming. And lastly, just remember the audio is important as well. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And as always, I thank you so much for watching. Cheers. So this is literally the footage on the G7X Mark II. That's a nice shallow depth of field. So I'll put the screen in focus, okay? Now I'll put the 70D in focus. Do you see that? Literally, that is with a handheld point and shoot video camera. That's impressive.